Mr. President, many thanks for this. I have tired you. I apologize. No, we have just started. It's merely the beginning. But you have set the very high bar for this conversation that will cling to many of the topics that you have just mentioned. Actually, indeed, this polycentric multipolar world order is kind of still fledgling, and description is at the inceptional stage. It is very complex and sophisticated, and as in an old parable, we may touch a part of our body, of a body, and believe this is the entire elephant, but it's merely a part of the elephant's body. Well, I've cited practical examples. These are no idle words, not lip service. Sometimes we're faced with different issues to be resolved in different parts of the globe, and in the past times there were two blocks, the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc, but currently things have changed, and now I may be facing a dilemma whether I should act in this or that way. But if I act in this way, this will impact those stakeholders. If I act in another way, this is impact someone else. So, and well, in several occasions we opted for an omission. Sometimes it is wiser to exercise restraint than to act. And these are the realities of today, and this is something happening in practice. Well, at school, have you been playing chess? No, I was a chess player anyway. Good. Then let me continue with respect to what you have said.
Regarding the practice, not just the theoretical analysis has changed, but the practical actions cannot be the same as they used to be, and certainly the preceding decades. Many relied on the institutions, different international organization structures and structures within the states that were adopted and adapted to solve certain problems, and many experts, and we discussed that too at the Valdai Discussion Club in the previous days, say that the institutions, for certain reasons, become weaker or even lose their efficiency. And the leaders, the heads of states, now have to assume much more responsibility than before. In that respect, I have a question to you. Are you feeling, being an Alexander I at Congress in Vienna, who was personally negotiating the New World Order, being alone?
No, I do not feel like this. Alexander I was an emperor, and I am a president elected by popular vote for a certain term. This is the biggest difference, number one. Secondly, Alexander I used might to unite Europe, defeating the enemy that had invaded our territory. We recall the Vienna Congress and all other things and what was done by him with respect to where the world was heading. This is a contentious thing, whether monarchies were to be restored anywhere across the board, or one should have tried to turn the wheel of history in a different direction, looking at the nascent trends and heading this new progressive movement. But, this is a digression from your question. Apropos, as regards contemporary institutions of nowadays, they have degraded when some countries of the collective West tried to use and capitalize on the situation that came into play after the Second World War and the end of the Cold War, proclaiming themselves the winners in the Cold War, and in many countries started exercising resistance and balking. And the West, after the Soviet Union ceased to exist, Western structures injected very many very many manpower in governing bodies of the ex-Soviet republics, and they acted. Those new staff members acted in a very crude manner and blunt manner. And OSCE, why was the OSCE created and established? To resolve complex issues in Europe, and it boiled down finally to becoming a venue and a platform to discuss human rights in the post-Soviet space. Well, listen, there are many problems in this respect, but in Western Europe too, they have problems, and this Department of State of the United States paid heed to the fact that they started having human rights issues in the United Kingdom. Well, let them live happily, but those problems existed before, and those professional organizations started handling Russia and the post-Soviet space, but this was not the original mandate of theirs, and it became pointless. The original mandate in the previous frame of reference with the existence of the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc was different, and these institutions degraded because they stopped doing what they had been created for. But no other option than looking for consensus-based solutions, and trade-offs exist. And we came to understand gradually that some institutions were to be established to resolve different matters, not the way our Western colleagues and counterparties tried to resolve them, but building upon consensus. This is how Shanghai Cooperation Organization was established. Well, originally it was about sorting out the borderline disputes between the former Central Asian republics of the USSR and China, and it proved efficient, very efficient, and we started expanding its mandate, and it lifted off, and gradually this is how BRICS came into existence. I received the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President, and I suggested we should have a RIC format, tripartite format, and we agreed to get together on a regular basis and engage our foreign ministers, and we kicked the ball rolling, and despite some of the minor problems that they had between themselves, some of the issues, anyway, this platform, this organization proved efficient, and no one wants to bulge out or press ahead with their interests. And everybody got to understand that balance should be struck, and Brazil and South Africa volunteered to join, and BRICS was established. So these are natural partners united by one and the same concept of how to find solutions to different problems in a mutually acceptable way. And I mentioned regional entities in my intervention, and their authority and clout have been growing. This is the guarantee that this new complex multipolar world has all the chances to become sustainable.